Okay, let's try another tutorial. This is a bit of a difficult shape to recreate, so I'm just going to show you a couple more techniques. Let's start by looking at the overall largest shape right there. It comes up at an angle, so let's bring this across to the side there so we can look at it while we're drawing. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I think, I'm going to draw head on. So to do that, I need to go into camera mode, parallel projection, not perspective, and then choose a front view. And now I can draw a major shape. And let's start by drawing a rectangle. And now here's a trick you can use. You can draw a line there, and another line there. And now let's select individual lines and move them. So I think what we'll do first is we'll grab that line, then get our move tool, and I can touch the line if I want to, or I can move anywhere else and just click and move up. And I'm going to move up at that angle. Then I'm going to select this line. I'll touch the line so you can see I can move it that way too. So I'll move it to there. Finally, I'm going to select that line and move that one up. I can move it all the way around, but I'm just going to move it straight up and down until I get a line that looks about the right angle. Looks about right to me there. Now if we look here, that vertical line and that vertical line are about the same height. But what if I wanted to make this one taller than these three lines? Well, it's not hard to do either. I could just get my pencil, continue that line down, and down to there, and then rub out that line. So you can adjust the angle quite easily. Okay. I also think I'm going to stretch it out further. So let's grab that line and move it to the right a little bit. Maybe something like that. Another thing you can do, you can select an object and say Tools, Scale. No, you can't. That didn't work at all. So never mind that. I'm going to grab that one slightly, move it down. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to start to make this into a 3D shape. So let's go back to a 3D view and turn on perspective because it looks a bit more natural. And now I think I'm going to delete those lines and then turn this into a 3D object like that. Let's make it that deep. And let's make it hollow. So I'm going to go back to a front view. So I think I'll turn off perspective again, go to a front view, and let's look at this hollow space inside here. Okay, if I think about where I want it to be, let's use the offset tool, see what happens here. Let's do that, and let's finish it off And blue would be straight up and down, so let's keep it at that. And let's say that that's where I want that space to be. Okay. I think what I'm going to need to do is carry that on up to there, carry it back, and if I make it green, I know that it's lined up with the y-axis. So carry that down. Remember, that has to be blue or else it's not perfectly up and down. Then I can carry that back, again making sure it's green so it lines up with the y-axis. I think I'll do the same with that. Remember, there's loads of ways to do things, so this is just the first thing I've thought of. Okay. I think what I want to do now is offset the same amount I did the other one, just double click there. And you can see what I've just done. In fact, let's undo that. Let's delete that guy. And offset it now. Let's delete that guy and offset it the same amount. Remember, if you offset something, it remembers the amount, so the next time you offset something you can double click it. Now, I think I'm going to start to rub out things so that we don't get too confused. So let's rub out that, all of these. You can see where I'm going with this. I can rub out that one. I don't need these anymore. What I'm doing essentially is showing you how you can actually subtract and build walls with simply cutting away things and then using the pencil. So what I'm going to do is, and I hope this works, I'm going to delete that face by pressing delete, and it left a hole. Then I'm going to delete that face, and it should leave a hole. And here's where it gets kind of clever, I hope. I'm going to turn perspective back on because it becomes a lot easier. And you can see that if I connect some corners, like that corner to that corner, and then press escape to finish that pencil, connect that corner to that corner, it drew in that wall. If I rotate around here, remember, middle mouse button orbits around your scene, and holding down shift in the middle mouse button means you can pan around as well. So now if I connect that pencil to that corner to that corner, and finally that corner to that corner. That didn't work, why not? Looks like I've got a little bit of a weird corner there, so let's make sure I'm getting right in the corner. There we go. And that got both of them. Perfect. Yeah, you got to be careful. Every once in a while you get little pieces. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I do that? If I turn on transparency, you can see what I'm doing a bit better. Why did I make that cavity that way instead of just simply using the push and pull tool? Okay. Well, let's turn off that. Let's use the push-pull tool and watch what happens if I just draw a rectangle there and use the push-pull tool. If I use the push-pull tool, if I turn on transparency, you'll see it's going in at an angle perpendicular to the top surface. So it's not going straight down. So that's the problem. Okay? Anyway, we're getting there. So that took a lot longer than I thought it would, but the result is exactly what I was looking for. And now, of course, I can continue to bring the bottom down by perhaps drawing in some lines. Let's draw something in there. And when it's not aligned with the red, green, or blue axis, the X, Y, and Z axis, but it's still aligned with something. You can see it goes a sort of a pinkish purple color, and that's because it's lined up with that line. So I'm going to do that right down to that edge. I'm going to do the same with that one. And let's see how I want to do this. Let's continue that on. Is it going to let me? I think that worked. And let's try that one. Sometimes zooming in helps. I'm sure you might even figure out an easier way to do this, but this is good for now. Okay, now I want to make the bottom part of this building, and I'm thinking that I might just simply draw some vertical lines. So let's look at this line right there, and let's stretch that out in the red direction. That's the x-axis. Let's just do it really far like that so we can see what we're doing. Escape to finish it. And now we know that that line could go down to there, but it's all one surface, so it would be fine just to go from the very furthest point, which is that one. Okay, so I'm going to start drawing it. I'm going to change it to this view, making sure it's blue. I'm going to go down to that until I touch the line, and that worked. It got that surface. Now I can rub out that bit. This is an entirely different technique. We're actually using the pencil quite a bit in this one, which is good. So let's go from that corner. Let's go back further than we need. Press escape. Let's do the exact same thing on the back here. Let's go past that one. In the red direction, we know it's lined up with the x-axis. Now we can rub that out and that out. And I'm pretty sure all we need to do now is grab it from there and go up to there. And look at that, it worked. Now at this stage, you'll notice that that surface and that surface are what's called coplanar. Coplanar means they're on the same surface, which means we should be able to heal the surface by rubbing that out. Nope, it was slightly off by maybe a slight angle, so we can't do that. That's a shame. But it won't show. When we color it, we can make that hide. Okay, let's finish off by just adding a few windows and things. I've just noticed that the windows are back there, but then this right-hand wall comes out forward slightly. That's pretty easy to do. So let's push those windows back even further by using the push-pull tool, pushing back that further. And now by using the pencil tool, we can go from there down to there at an angle. And now I think what we'll need to do is maybe make this thin. Straight down will be blue. And then we need to do what we were doing earlier, and that is come out like that, come out to there, go from there to there, and there to there. Did that work? Now here's a good example of where it, for some reason, did not like this, what I just did. So let's see why. Let's undo it. Let's make it a bit thicker so we can see what we're doing. Making sure it's blue. Another thing you could do that might be easier is just pull it out a bit like that, touch that edge, and then sometimes that can be a lot easier, in fact. Then go in like that, and then make that go back in until it touches. Look at that. I told you, many ways to do things. Sometimes using a combination of the pencil and three-dimensional tools like the push-pull tool is easier. Okay, we're getting there. This turned out to be more complicated than I thought it would be. Let's have a look at these windows and doors down here. Okay, so we can split that bottom line to the midpoint pretty easily, like that. And then we'll go up, like that. And then we'll do the exact same thing. We'll split that line into the midpoint and go straight up. You know it's straight up if it goes dark blue. Let's do the same thing here. Midpoint. Notice I have to change my angle, because if I do that, I can't see underneath. So I have to go like that, and then I don't necessarily want the midpoint. I want it to make it so that the vertical line is dark blue. It turns out that that happens to be the same thing. Okay, let's do it one more time. Light blue, dark blue line, but it turns out that the light blue midpoint, they coincide. Turns out I can actually get them both in the same view, so let's do it this way from now on. Light blue, and then midpoint and dark blue line. This time it doesn't say midpoint, because if you look above it, there's two line segments, so that would be a mistake where it says midpoint there. So let's keep it dark blue, and finally midpoint on the bottom, and then dark blue line. Okay, now what we need to do is make the window frames, and I think this case will be pretty easy. We'll just use the offset tool, and we'll go down here to something like that, make it come in just a little bit, and double click on the rest of them. 1, 2. And now what we'll do is we'll rub out the lines in between each window, like so. It always helps to constantly change your angle, your point of view I mean, which is called orbiting. Now, I could do one of two things. I could make that go in a little bit and then double click the rest of them. Or, as the frame is all one thing, I could just make the frame come out a little bit, and it doesn't want me to for some strange reason. I don't know why. But that's a good example of how sometimes things don't always happen the way you expect them to. So let's just go in a little bit and double click the rest of them. Oops. If that ever happens, this is another good example of what can go wrong. If that ever happens where you do something by accident, now when I double click it, it doesn't remember where the other ones were. Well, that's okay, because what I do is I get an angle like that, and then I make it go in, and then I go over and I touch the other one. And by doing that, it aligns to the other one again. And I think I know why making the window frame come out didn't work. That's because if you look at this, I can't make this window frame come out because that point right there goes down to there, meaning I can't have it come out further. So if I have that come out, it just won't go past that bottom point. Okay, almost there. Let's just put some windows in. Now you have to be careful here that your window doesn't go across that opening where that hole is. So here's a case where you would use the styles, turn on X-ray, and then go camera, parallel projection, front view, and you can see to make sure that your window, I think it should be a bit lower. maybe does something like that. If I wanted a window there, I would have to do that. And then, well, how do we make them line up? Well, pretty simple. A couple ways you could do it. You could just grab that, do that, press escape, grab that, do that, and then rub out. We can turn off the X-ray mode for a minute. Rub that out. That's easy enough. And now, how do we make this window go through? We get the push-pull tool, and we can start pushing, and it says on face, and you can see it kind of go weird blue, and that worked. But the other way you can do it is get to a view where I can see that back edge, and start pushing, and then just touch that. You don't want to go that far, obviously. Just touch that back edge where it says a little red dot and it says on edge, and that means you know you've gone to the exact right place. Okay, and I think we'll just double click that and see what happens. And it didn't intersect the window in there, so that's okay. I think that's where I'm going to leave this tutorial. So let's put it back on perspective. And there's one more thing, and that's that little thing up there. That's a little bit complicated. So let's see if I can show you how to do that. So let's take those two edges, that one and that one. How do I select both? I hold down Shift. I select both. And now let's see if I can use my offset tool. That worked, so I'm going to have it go up about that much. And now let's look at what I have to do to clean it a little bit. I think I just need to rub off that little extra bit there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is have a line come from the top edge there, which represents that bit right there. That little bit right there. I'm going to have a pencil. We're going to come out, and I don't know if you can see this, but the green line is the y-axis. So if I have that come out along the green line, and I think that's too far, so what I'll do is I'll press escape. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to start drawing what I'm about to do, right about maybe there. So I'm going to start drawing there, and I'm going to go down to there. I'm going to start drawing at the same point again, and go down to there. So that's the top part. Now what I need to do is perhaps rub that extra bit out. Now I need to, we know the height of it is there to there, so we could draw that now. I've just realized I made a bit of a mistake. So let's undo those two lines. If I start there, and I just go up in blue, you can see that when I used my offset tool, it did not go perfectly vertical. So I should do that first, actually. And then I've got a new corner there that I can draw to. Get my pencil tool. And come from there to the top corner. From there to that corner. Rub out the extra bit. Now this could be a little bit tricky. How are we going to do this? I think we can do it no. Let's draw a line straight down. And it really wants to be the same length as that line. So I think I'm just going to go trial and error so we can draw an end to this tutorial. But we need to draw a line from there to there. Now, one last thing I need to do is grab my arrow and right click the blue surfaces and say reverse faces, because if it goes like a shaded blue like that, then it actually means that the surface is inside out, which doesn't really affect our model, but if you were going to 3D print this, it would have a huge impact. It would mean that you wouldn't be able to 3D print this model. Okay, let's stop this tutorial because it was quite a long one. Okay, so perspective back on. Good. Maximize. And look at it from eye level. Don't look at your model down like that for your final presentation. Look at it from the point of view of an actual person, which is about like that. Okay, and if you want to, you can use the little feet there, and you can start very slowly walking towards your model. Or you can use the eye and start to look up at your model like that. Okay, which is a bit more natural. Okay, stay tuned for another tutorial. Hopefully this one has been helpful. I think the main thing that you've learned today is that you can use the pencil tool to draw some interesting shapes. You don't have to only rely on the rectangles, circles, and curves and the push-pull tool. You can draw interesting shapes with the pencil tool. Okay, stay tuned.